Now, part of the context before I go into details is also something that I hear always. You know, one thing I always promise people that I'll promise you today is I would always be honest with you. Whether you now like the outcome or not is a different thing, but I'll be honest with you. And I'm not here to promote anyone, not even the government. I'm speaking to facts, and you make your own decisions. Many people would ask today, and I saw it during the recent MBA conference in Enugu. They would say, is your life better today than it was 2 years ago? Of course, the answer would be a resounding no. But the problem is not with the answer. The problem is with the question. The question presupposes that if we did nothing and maintained the status quo as it was as of May 2023, that our life today will be exactly the same as it was 2 years ago. And a liter of petrol will be the same amount. A bag of rice will be the same amount. Exchange rate of dollars will be the same amount. Guess what? That is the biggest fallacy. If government had not introduced the reforms that they introduced in the past 2 years, the picture will look like what you have on the screen. As at May 2023, I tried to use traffic colors. Nigeria was amber, waiting to turn red. You know amber can turn to green, but this was amber turning red. It got so bad that Nigeria was trading a negative balance of payments. We're receiving less dollars than we're spending. Nigeria had printed about 30 trillion naira to spend, just printing money to spend. That's part of the inflation we are dealing with today, because government ran out of revenue. We spent 97% of federal government revenue to service debts, which meant everything else we did, from paying salaries to overhead to capital, we borrowed. We didn't borrow at lower digit interest rates. They were high 20s. The NNPC was supposed to be remitting money to the Federation account. NNPC said the government was owing them money. How? Because all of our entitlements, NNPC used it to subsidize PMS. It wasn't enough. They went to all the oil companies that were supposed to pay royalty, lifted the oil for royalty, sold it, used it to subsidize PMS. It wasn't enough. The taxes that they were supposed to pay, petroleum profit tax, they said to FRS, we won't be able to pay you. They added it to subsidy. It still wasn't enough. When they ran out of options, guess what they did? They said, how about future production of crude oil? NNPC began, and this is not Africa magic, I'm telling you real life. They began to use future production of crude oil as guarantee, security, to borrow dollars at double-digit interest rate to subsidize current consumption of PMS. They did it so much so that today that I speak to you, we can barely boast of equivalent of 200,000 barrels per day that is unencumbered for Nigeria. That 200,000 barrels that was left, in my estimation, was less than 6 months of headroom. If this reform had not been done by May, by the end of 2023, you know what will happen naturally? Once you exhaust your future production and you can't print dollars, you will not be able to bring in any refined products. This is a situation like what happened in Sri Lanka. You hold 10,000 naira, you pray to God to find 1 liter of petrol to buy. There will be no Dangote refinery because there's no way that business will survive if you have to sell at 160, 180, 200 and go and pray to God for government to pay you subsidy that they had no money to pay. The economy was grinding to a halt and it was very close. The margin of safety was very thin, this thing. So those reforms took us up, if you look at the screen, to 2 years later, which is 2025. But it's harder times than it was in 2023, but it's harder times before things get better. If we had not done the reforms, it would have been still now hardest times and economic collapse. So anytime you have that conversation with anyone, because it's important that you are well informed, so that even when you want to get angry, you apply your energy properly. Okay? So one of my prayers is, I hope nobody will say to us, they want to return subsidy so they can win election. Anything that returns subsidy is taking us back to the evil days.